You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop Network, an affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, joined here once again by my normal co-host, Evan Lang.
Howdy.
Howdy. And we're joined here by a good friend of the show. It's been a long overdue having him back on, but you can find him as the host of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Awesome daily episodes, bringing that heat every day. It's our good buddy, Paul Holden. Paul, welcome.
Hey, super excited to be back here hanging out. It's like we said, I always love talking rocks with you guys. Always a good time, and good to be back on the show.
Yeah, we're always happy to have you. I know it's been a while. We get busy when we do our weekly episode. It's hard to get our extra person on there, but glad we all worked out the kinks and got you on here because you have the hard task of talking the Rockies every single day on your show. You know, doing the video and the audio and all that good stuff. I don't know how you do it.
Hey, I'm glad that the season's back. The off season's the hardest part. At least when there's 162 games to react to, it makes the job easier. But you know, this off season was, since in my tenure of being a podcast host for the Rockies, was easily the most engaging and exciting. I mean, there was the intrigue when I first started with what are the Rockies going to do with Trevor's story. That was kind of the big storyline as I started right after the post Arenado trade. So it was kind of like, where do the Rockies go from here? So it was cool to see this offseason actually be one where there was a lot of intrigue and a lot of storylines and a lot of things to break down. I mean, it was, I mean, this had to be the most interesting Rockies offseason in close to a decade, it feels like.
Yeah, Skyler and I were talking about it a lot of how often do we reach, the halfway point of the offseason or something, and we are scraping the bottom of the barrel for things to talk about because nothing has happened. They signed one guy to a 1-year, $2 million deal, and signed a bunch of minor league guys, and nothing else is happening. And, this year we had enough conversation topics that we were going over time in basically every episode.
Yeah. And it's cool too because that's when our show started too, is in the post Arenado era in 2021. So we're all kind of in the same boat, tied at the hip sort of thing.
Unfortunately, we haven't brought any luck for the squad since we've been talking. So
but we got a lot to talk about. Fun stuff as we're now a full week and a half, 2 weeks into the season, as the Rockies are now kicking off their first homestand of the year, just finished up their first series. And interesting enough, took 2 of 3 from Toronto, which who had that on their bingo card, and then took 1 of 3 from the Phillies. And the kind of this whole first segment that I want to talk to you guys about is just, where is the offense? That's probably the biggest thing and the biggest worry if anybody had to what's wrong with the Rockies right now. It's the offense, because it's been brutal of not being able to score runs outside of a 14-run explosion in Toronto. Other than that, it's just the offense just hasn't looked different. And what are you guys seeing from the offense, Evan?
I know that it's still a work in progress. You have a new hitting coach, you have a new hitting philosophy. You're still installing all this stuff, but it has been just so ugly to start the season here in terms of the strikeouts. Really, really bad, especially a lot of strikeouts looking, which have been ugly to watch. The other night you had Doyle strike out twice looking, Goodman's striking, everybody is striking out looking, everybody is swinging at everything. It's, the Rockies are already averaging over 11 strikeouts a game. They've only had 2 or 3 games where they haven't struck out more than 10 times. It's been pretty bad, and there's not been much of the power stroke as well, especially when you've got, today was the first game where we had this many home runs in a Rockies game, and all the runs came via the home run, but they still struck out. They're not drawing their walks. it's been a little odd because I feel like right now, and maybe it's just recency bias, that the offense is worse than it was at the beginning of last season, where you're having a bunch of games where you're losing, but you're only losing by one run, but that one run is the only run you've scored. Like before today, where the Rockies won 4-1, they had what 5 games in a row where they scored 2 or fewer, and only one of those games is where they scored at least 2. It's I don't know, and it's everybody. It's not like you can't just say, oh, it's the usual offenders or oh, it's the new guys. You know, Hunter Goodman has struggled, Brenton Doyle has struggled, Tovar's been a little all over the place, and then some of the new guys have struggled too. It's all over, just not looking very good, and you know it's too early to be pushing the panic button on it just yet. But I really need to see things start clicking by the end of April. Then if not, might be time to panic.
Yeah, it's a huge. I have been preaching this. It's the Rockies will go as far as their offense goes this year. If they are to avoid 100 losses this year, it's going to be the offense. Now, the starting pitching is going to be stabilized, but we're going to see a lot of games where the starters are going to if Kyle Freeland or Sagano or whoever can go 6 innings and allow 3 runs. That's a win for the Rockies more often than not. You have to be able to be in those games to be able to bounce back from that. Luckily, we've seen some starts that have been even better from that, and the Rockies getting some solid performances out of the pen. But I want to read a tweet here from Patrick Saunders. This was heading into Sunday's game. This was before the finale. The Rockies have been held to 3 or fewer runs in 7 of their 8 games and held to 1 run 4 times, including each of their first 2 home games. Their 14 runs on March 30th at Toronto are more than they have scored in the other 7 games combined. And now that only changes because of the 4 runs that the Rockies add, and that's only +2. So the Rockies basically have 2 strong offensive performances that are carrying a significant amount of weight for them in this season. And this is the strikeouts, the overaggression, and if they don't adjust, that's what's going to prevent the Rockies from having great players in there. It's going to be what prevents Tovar from taking the step up to the next level. Hunter Goodman taking the step up to the next level. Brenton Doyle taking the step up to the next level. And it's going to prevent guys that are on this team that are trying to make a case for themselves. Julian, Castro. I'd say Rumfield has done a pretty good job so far. I think he's been probably one of the best bats in the lineup when you're talking about avoiding the strikeout and control of the zone. But these are a lot of guys in this Rockies lineup that are trying to make a name for themselves, either in the big picture of the league or on the Rockies roster here. And they have to show us that they can make an adjustments, because this is a mix. It's not just a hitting coach and new philosophy thing. It's a player thing too.
Yeah.
At this stage, I can't be watching you chase Ezequiel Tovar. If they're going to throw you something down and away, I want to see an at-bat like he had late in Sunday's game where he goes down early but then brings it up and gets the walk. The Rockies have to start walking and being more disciplined at the plate. Their over-aggression, while it pays out for them with a couple of big flies or getting after a couple of starters early, it's costing them at a league-high swing and miss rate and a league high strikeout rate. I actually, just before we hopped on, recorded my Monday episode, and we mentioned the Rockies are averaging just under 12 strikeouts a game. 12 of the Rockies outs are strikeouts. There is no such thing as a productive strikeout, and that's 12 out opportunities that aren't productive outs and are going to be costly for the Rockies here going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's the things we're seeing a lot of the bleed over of, the coaching staff front office changed, but a lot of the offensive personnel stayed the same. So it's still guys that Bill Schmidt and Jeff Bridich, those guys valued of, we're going for these big swing guys that can hit homers and have power strokes and all this stuff, can hit doubles and whatnot, but they're not making the contact and being over aggressive. But then we're also seeing it's guys that were supposed to come in and help set the mold of a Willie Castro, a Jake McCarthy, Edward Julian. It's okay. These are guys that don't strike out a ton. They make contact. They get on base. But how often have we seen Willie Castro's far? Like, yeah, he leads the team in doubles at the moment. Now, like, he's getting his hits here and there. But these early games of the season, it's a lot of ugly 3-pitch strikeouts. He's swinging at everything below the zone, and teams know it, and they're taking advantage of it thus far. So I think that's the big thing is a lot of these guys, especially your Becks, your Doyles, your Tovars, they have to show that they can adjust because that's what big leaguers do. Evan and I have talked about it all the time on this show is the best big leaguers are still always adapting and adjusting and evolving. And that's what we need to see out of the Rockies. We see little hints of it, but there needs to be a little bit more rapid evolvement for these guys.
Yeah, that's what's huge. It's this is a season where we want to see the Rockies taking steps forward, and for guys like Tovar, Doyle, Goodman, Beck, this is your moment to establish yourselves not only as you are the Rockies core. And great to see Moniak get a couple of big flies there as well. But let's be honest, Moniak is most likely going to be if guys aren't going to take a flyer on the trade deadline at him, that these are guys I'm talking about, guys that are going to try to make up the identity or be a part of the next good Rockies team. And it's what's so frustrating watching the Rockies, especially as we've now seen Toronto and Philly, two great offenses, when you're watching guys spoil pitches, drive up the pitch counts of the Rockies pitchers, and then fight something off to get a single or hit a home run or do something like that. I get so jealous watching great offenses because it's not just that they can score and, hey, bat flips and big home runs. It's no, they just grinded out a 9-pitch at bat where they spoiled 4 pitches and then they were able to find a seeing eye single through the left side of the infield. That's the type of stuff that makes you a great team and a great offense and matters in baseball. Like I said, it was great to see that Toronto series and that big offensive explosion, but man, I can't say I'm overly confident in this Rockies offense. I think the strikeout numbers are a huge red flag for this team.
Mm. Evan's got it on his mind because Evan, do you see it as how would if you're Brett Pill and Jordan Pacheco, what do you do? It feels like your hands are tied because, like we talked, it's a lot of it's personnel. How do you continue to try and help these guys overcome the strikeout issues and over aggression?
I mean, unfortunately, we're still playing a lot of times a great big game of what I like to call please stop swinging at that. And it's been a problem for a lot of Rockies players throughout history, but especially in the new quote unquote newer era where we've seen the offense completely just melt down following the 2018 season. Is the Rockies and the prospects that they've quote unquote developed have been really bad at pitch recognition. And that goes for Tovar, that goes for Doyle, that even goes for Goodman. And we've seen some of these guys make adjustments, but it feels like there's always going to be stretches of time where they are chasing wildly. Tovar especially has the cargo problem of there is never a pitch down and away that he doesn't want to swing at, and he never hits it. And when he does, he gets good contact. But, we know that that's not sustainable just based on watching Cargo of when Cargo hit 30 and he couldn't make that bat speed get to those pitches anymore. It was, he became a total non-factor. And, I worry about that for Tovar because he's still so young, but it's very clearly a habit of he wants to chase. And for some of these guys, you're trying to instill of don't chase that. You don't need to chase that, of trying to watch your pitches. And I think that's part of why we're seeing them strike out looking so much more often right now, is that they are watching pitches, but they're still not recognizing the pitches that they should or should not swing at. And it's frustrating because, so many of these guys now have strikeout rates of like 30%. Like half the roster has a strikeout rate of 30% or something like that. And we're early in the season, but we've already got guys who are in the negatives for wins above replacement. And, you look at that and you go, Jake McCarthy's got negative 0.5 WAR already. That's concerning. And you combine that with the fact that he's been not playing very good defense as well. But overall, just none of the team is really delivering on what they're supposed to, except for TJ Rumfield. He is taking patient back, and he's still striking out more than, especially was during spring training, but that was never sustainable. Like, he struck out twice during the entirety of spring training, and that second strikeout came on the very last day of camp. That's never sustainable. But he is striking out less, and when he gets a hold of the ball, he makes really good contact, and that's why it's been frustrating that he's been out of the lineup a couple times, and he's also not playing at first base. I would love to see him more in the lineup. And in terms of some of these guys, I know that they've said that they want to switch people around and do a lot of substitutions. There are guys that should be starting every day regardless. And I think Rumfield is one of those guys. But you've got this entire team now that's got to, again, readjust, because some of these guys, this is the umpteenth hitting coach that they've had throughout their journey through the minors and up to the majors. And Skyler and I have discussed at length that there always seems to be a disconnect between what's going on at the big league level and what's going on in the minors. And so now, once again, there's more adjustments to it's like, everybody's complaining about Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles or whatever, and not recognizing that he's had like 7 offensive coordinators during his career so far. You need a consistent message and overall consistency. It's the same thing of, you see it in football, you see it in other sports, of teams that are constantly switching coaches and switching philosophies and changing things up. They can never really find sustained success because everything is changing constantly. And I think that's part of the thing with this year is you want to see something click and you want to see them sustain it, because I don't think the Rockies can abide by having to fire another hitting coach and go through this again. And it's going to be, in my opinion, if we don't see things start to click sort of like in May, I think then we should be a little bit worried. But overall, it's more of just, you're building a foundation, and you do want to give time for some guys to get used to that foundation, because the Rockies themselves know they're not winning that many games this year. At the home open, their intro video and their new promotional video is like starting the climb. And I was at Coors the other 2 days, and they've got this intro video that's about that. And all they're talking about is, they're not talking about winning games. They're not talking about being an incredible team. They're talking about making progress. And I describe it as such, and I put this on my Blue Sky feed as well, of their philosophy this year, and they're being honest about it to the fans, which I appreciate it, is every mountain's got a bottom, and brother, you are at it.
Sometimes you're on the other mountain and realize, I still need to go down so I can go up the one I want.
Yeah, and I think the patience is important. Obviously, as much as I'm frustrated with this throughout the first week, and I will continue to be really harping on the offense here, as I think it is crucial for this team. They do deserve time. They do deserve our patience here. And hey, 3-6 for where the Rockies could be. I mean, and you mentioned the McCarthy defense. I mean, we're one bottom of the ninth going the other way for the Rockies in Miami, where the Rockies are at 4 wins and they're right around 500. And I would say, people would say it's a different case, but for the losses that the Rockies have had in the close games to pan out and play out, as we've seen before, a defensive blunder that cost them. They're striking out over 10 times a game and going 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Those things we can't ignore because they're so systematically connected to the Rockies. But I do think that there's plenty of time to turn it around. I'd love to see Castro heat it up. I don't think Hunter Goodman's going to strike out 3 times a game in multiple games in a row, going forward. I think I think unfortunately for Hunter, he's coming in dealing with a lot of expectations, and he's got to work on managing that, because it's unfair. In reality, for me, I don't want Hunter Goodman to be the anchor. I look at Tovar as the anchor of this offense. Hunter Goodman is the power, is the thump. But the Rockies offense needs a disciplined, strong Ezequiel Tovar leading the team in doubles, being a guy that can help with the slugging, because the glove is there. We're seeing the healthy Ezequiel Tovar. We are seeing the impacts on the Colorado Rockies of a healthy Ezequiel Tovar. And now the hit streak was great. Now he can be one of the best shortstops in baseball if he can take that next step offensively. And I think that can be maybe not the best players in baseball, but the Rockies have a case to be on top 10 lists for best position players. If they can get some guys to take steps in the right direction, I just hope that they can do it, because I worry about it. I really
Yeah.
do worry, Evan, as you mentioned it here. If it's May 5th, if it's a month from now and we're revisiting it and the Rockies are still striking out 10 times a game, the proof is going to be in the pudding there for at least a good chunk. The sample size is not small at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the big thing, part of it too, that you mentioned Tovar being the Rockies have always operated, especially over these last several years, is we're banking on one or two guys being that absolute anchor in the lineup. But you look at a team like Toronto and Vladdy Jr., you have him in the heart of that lineup, but sometimes you forget he's in there just because everybody in that lineup is dangerous. Look at the Phillies lineup. You're starting off Turner, Schwarber, Harper at the top of the order, and it gets still good hitters below that. And we're seeing in these first week or so where guys are getting their hits. It's the lack of runs being scored because there's no
capitalizing.
So there's no cohesive lineup, contributing. Like, TJ Rumfield, he had a good game. Everybody else didn't do a dang thing. Instead of it's passing the baton of Tovar gets a hit. Now Doyle gets a hit. Now TJ Rumfield hits a 3-run homer. Awesome. The Rockies are up 3-0. So it's that lack of cohesion and just passing the baton. It's still relying on individuals when we need that hitting team lineup, everybody contributing. And we're just not getting that right now.
And Paul, it's one of those things where no one can really blame anyone for being impatient, because the Rockies are just starting a rebuild that should have started years ago. And instead of it just being like, we've been bad for a couple seasons, it's the Rockies have been bad for 7 seasons and they've lost 100 plus 3 seasons in a row. That patience isn't there, and it's not necessarily deserved, which isn't necessarily fair to the Rockies, because they are finally bringing in new blood and doing the right thing. But it's hard to be impatient when you just don't have the resources yet to expect the Rockies to be good. And it's all going to be about development. And I really quick just want to touch what you said about Hunter Goodman, about the expectations. I think this season is going to be huge for Hunter in terms of how he deals with those expectations, because we've seen what happens when you buckle under the weight of those expectations. And his name is Nolan Jones.
Yep.
Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar. Tovar was kind of injuries, but still, even then, like we've seen.
Brenton Doyle is in very much still prove it territory. I think he is. I think out of really the guys in the Rockies lineup, I think Ezekiel Tovar is really the only one I'm sitting there like confident in, because I know a lot happened in Brenton Doyle's life last year when you're talking health off the field and everything. I think that that stuff really, plays a factor. But we haven't seen the same Brenton Doyle. Now, I'd say the last couple of games, and when he got that pinch hit there where he got his first couple of hits of the season, he tracks down a ball in the gap, jumps and crashes into the wall against the Phillies. Good sign, but this is it is the patient. There is no patience for Rockies. I'm sure you guys saw it on the reaction after the home opener. It is. I can't blame fans for being there, but it's a really tough thing to ask the Rockies fan to be patient again. But in reality, we are just getting started, Evan. This is truly the first step of an actual rebuild. Whatever the Rockies were doing the last 5 years, it ain't building up and making them, the next Baltimore Orioles here. We haven't even gotten to the trail that leads to the mountain, yet. I feel like when it comes to things, and
it's a tough position to be in, because I was at the home opener and the vibes were bad even before the first inning, even before first pitch. There was very little place packed with Phillies fans, first of all, but then from the non-Phillies fans, very little cheering, very little audience interaction. Pretty much everyone around me was complaining or talking about how bad the Rockies are, talking about the ownership, talking about stuff. And I get that not everyone is as dialed in necessarily to the day-to-day minutia like we are, because we're lunatics, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But it's hard because your average fan just knows Rocky's bad, Rocky's been bad, Rockies probably continue to be bad. And so the vibes were not good. And after Lorenzen came in and gave up 7 runs in the first inning, they got worse. And it was pretty tough. And they were definitely better on Saturday when, it was a very well pitched game and it was close the entire game. But it's one of those things where the Rockies don't really have a good engaged casual fan base like a lot of other teams because of that 7-year period of doing nothing to address the problems of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did you guys get sent a picture or a meme on the first day of the season of the Rockies being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs? Because I got about 5 of them. I think maybe 5 or 6 of them from 6 different people. And this was on Thursday before the Rockies even got to play their first game. They didn't even give them the first game.
Yeah, I saw them quite a bit. I don't have friends that message me things, so. But I did just see it on the social medias around. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, but I will say though, despite the frustrations, I've been through 10 games. I've enjoyed watching these games more than I remember feeling. I remember basically feeling June onward. It was basically kind of like the Rockies were tough. But one of the things I kind of highlighted on my show, one of the things that's going to be important for the Rockies here is they got to break up the bad stretches. They can't have the back-to-back winning this game on Sunday matters. It does. It really truly does for the Rockies to squeak out some of these wins, steal that series in Toronto, because when you go 6, 7, 8 games in a row of losing, that's how you just get thrown. It kills all the interest. There's just nothing there. So for the Rockies to have at least been in mostly competitive games with the exception of really one of them, because even that game that second loss or the loss in Toronto, Rockies technically weren't blown out in that one. That 4-run ball game isn't crazy. So I think the Rockies, with the issues, with the problems, have been more intriguing to start this year, and there is more reason to watch the Colorado Rockies this season than there has in the past. But it'll be interesting to see how they navigate it, especially as if it continues down this path. How much will this new front office be shopping people at the deadline? How will the Rockies kind of keep this new look Rockies front office manage this season? It's there are plenty of things to pay attention to. On top of that, tip of the cap to the pitching so far, right? I mean, the pitching has been better than advertised so far.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into our first break. You can tell that somebody here hosts a podcast of his own, too. So, yeah, we'll take a quick break here. We'll be back here on Affected by Altitude, talking the pitching next here on our little show. Back here on Affected by Altitude, Skyler and Evan, joined here by Paul Holden of Locked on Rockies. Talk about the offense, but like Paul alluded to, our break, there's still some things that have made the Rockies watchable, I think entertaining to watch, and it has been, which was the focus and talk of the offseason with the new front office, with the new coaching staff, what most of their free agent signings were, is the pitching staff. And been through the rotation, second time through the rotation now, and lots to talk about. But let's start things off with Sunday starter, guy who's had the best 2 starts of the season for the Rockies. It's 36-year-old Tomoyuki Sagano coming out of Japan. The 36-year-old has looked good. Facing Toronto, went 4 2/3, I think. 1 run in that game, and then on Sunday against the Phillies, 6 innings, gives up 1 run. Both runs he's given up are solo home runs this season. But Tomoyuki Sagano, maybe surprisingly, was the signing that seemed like he was the one that people were like, I don't know about this one. But so far he's silencing the haters, so to speak.
I would like to remind everyone that I was excited about Tomoyuki Sagano from the get-go.
I think, yeah, you and I were like, oh, sweet, that's neat.
Well, I think my main takeaway from the acquisitions the Rockies made with these veteran arms was, okay, these are not ceiling raisers, floor raisers. These are guys that aren't going to win you the Cy Young. The Rockies aren't going to lead be the best rotation, but these are guys that more often than not should keep you in games, keep games stable. You have the Lorenzen game. That's going to happen to every Rockies starter. It is. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast of not only the game of baseball, but where you're pitching. But for the Rockies to be able, thank goodness now they're getting guys to go the fifth, because my whole thing with these guys is it's been a great start, but they really got to eat innings for the Rockies. It's so important. But I think what's been great is the Rockies' belief of we're going to carry multiple long relief guys here too. That has worked out tremendously for the Rockies in this small sample size, knowing that, hey, our starter, get us to the fifth, and then we'll go from there. And then you got Belozo that had that amazing. I mean, again, that game was washed, but 1 hit, 7 strikeouts over like 6 innings worth of work for him. What a phenomenal performance. I think Chase Dollander, even with the home runs, he looks confident coming out of the bullpen. And Antonio Senzatella looks like a completely different pitcher coming out of the bullpen as well. And that all goes back to, I think, that the fact that the Rockies now have a starting pitching rotation of guys that are experienced. You have a bunch of experience between these guys mixed with the guy at the front, Kyle Freeland, who's got some of the he's got to have the most Coors Field pitching experience out of anybody in Major League Baseball outside of Antonio Senzatella right now. So I think that this is a pairing that raises the floor of the worst starting rotation in baseball history, which is great. And I think the Rockies will be in more competitive games. They will be in more one-run games because the starting pitching is better this year. And I hate to, I'm bummed to dog on German Marquez, a Rockies great, but German and Antonio Senzatella last year were just not good. And hopefully we're going to see Ryan Feltner be able to continue what he did before getting his bad luck of getting plunked by pitches that are hit off of bats there. But I feel like if people might hear me and they're like, oh, look at how excited this guy is about the Rockies rotation, he's making him sound like the best thing since sliced bread. No. I just think that this is it's a stable starting rotation. It's when these guys take the mound, more often than not, they have the experience, the pitch mixes, and everything to keep the Rockies in ball games. And I hope that continues throughout the year. And it'll give the Rockies interesting options come the trade deadline, which is super important for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the big. You look at the entire starting rotation. Like, I think too, these aren't just scrap heap. We pulled them off the bargain bin. Oh, Dakota Hudson, come on down. These are guys with resumes that are decent and have been decent recently over a long career with Quintana, who's currently on the 15-day IL with a hamstring, but seems like he should be fine to come back when his time is done, step right back in. But Lorenzen and Sugano, they have these storied careers. Now, Sugano over in Japan, honestly, wasn't that bad last year with the Orioles. So you have guys that have these resumes with a Kyle Freeland who is, as much as we wish he could have been the 2018 Kyle Freeland all the time. He's found himself in a very reliable, consistent gamer out there. And I think you add those 4, and then Ryan Feltner, who has shown what he can do in the past when he's healthy. It's a very solid, like you said, stable rotation. And Evan, I think what you contribute, with Alon Leishman and just this influx of guys, what is working so well for the starting rotation this early part of the season?
Honestly, the biggest thing is that they're hitting their spots. Like, it was one of the biggest things that Alon Leishman and the Rockies, that new look pitching coaching staff, talked about, is hitting your spots, pounding the zone, not necessarily nibbling, not walking guys. And there's been a couple games walks. Quintana walked a couple guys in his first start. And honestly, him going on the IL with that hamstring strain, that kind of makes sense for that. And Lorenzen had the Rocky start as well. But then you've got the other guys, and they're hitting their spots. They're doing what they need to do. And it's also the very deep arsenals and the working on the actual pitching mechanics. I think Antonio Senzatella this year is the poster boy for the new Rockies regime, where he looks like a totally different pitcher, like you said, of his fastball has actual life to it. It doesn't look like just a flat nothing pitch.
It's not just a fart out of his hand.
He's already thrown 6 different kinds of pitches this year. Which, how many years have we gone? Antonio Senzatela is basically a 2-pitch pitcher. Might as well be a 1-pitch pitcher because he really only throws that fastball. And he still does, honestly, throw that fastball too much. But the comparison between his fastball this year and his fastball last year, even if it's only necessarily him coming out of the bullpen and getting a little bit more velocity on it, it looks completely different and it looks good. You add in the cutter, the sinker, the curve, the changeup, the slider. He's utilizing them all fairly effectively. And I don't know, it's really nice to see his pitches have life, have movement. Like here's a good comparison. In terms of vertical movement on his four-seam fastball in 2025, his vertical drop on that fastball is 18.3 inches with gravity. It's negative 3.9 inches lower than comparable league average. And this year, that vertical drop is only negative 1.0 in compared to comparable league average. Like, his pitches are different. And just looking at his stat cast, he's getting more movement, he's getting more life, he's getting more spin, and we saw that he's been working with the coaching staff, messing with grips, messing with mechanics, and for the first time in the almost 10 years that Antonio Senzatela has been with this team, it feels like he's developing as a pitcher. And that's the thing that it comes to. And you've got a starting rotation right now that are all guys who have been down that road of needing to develop, needing to change, mix up their arsenal. They're all guys with deep pockets in terms of what they throw, especially Lorenzen and Sugano. Both have pretty hefty arsenals. And it's just, I don't know. I'm having actually a good time watching Rockies pitching to start the season because it really is, outside of that Lorenzen outing, the rest of that game was fabulously pitched by Valente Belloso.
Yeah, I was going to say, after today, the Rockies are currently tied for 17th in the league, or somewhere in there in the rankings, in starter ERA at a 5.09 ERA, kind of in line. Or pardon me, I was looking at the walks, but yeah, they're near the bottom, or one of the higher ones. So I changed my statement, but still a 5.09. They're there with the Cardinals at a 5.08. Red Sox are at a 5.19. But instead, if you take away that that game for Lorenzen, the starter ERA is that much better. And I think the big thing, like you mentioned, is the walks. The starters, that's where the starters are at, where they're tied for 17th in walks with not a ton. And I think that's what helps them. Like, yeah, the strikeouts are still not the best, but you're getting they're pounding the zone. They're attacking hitters, and I think that's the big thing. And I think, that's my favorite part of watching Sugano is he's that a pitcher that the Rockies have not had in a long while, of guy just pinpoint control, mixes it up, works up, down, left, right. He uses the whole zone, his whole arsenal, pounds the zone, he can get strikeouts, gets the weak contact, and just pitches instead of, this is a guy who just comes up and throws it hard, and we're going to work the knees. But a guy can pitch and use his whole thing around the zone, which it's fun to watch, like you said, Evan.
Yeah, and it's important to limit those walks. I mean, the ERA is going to be that's really going to be the big thing. The big, limit the walks, get a few strikeouts in there, and that's what we're asking for when it comes to these starters. I think, again, too, we're talking about the importance of being positive WAR players. These guys were all positive WAR players last year too. Again, not the best arms, but these guys were all successful, even with the flaws. Sagano, the big home run, the most home runs allowed in baseball. But Evan, you pointed out before we were recording, solo shots. If that's what's the damage that Sagano is gonna let up, I'll give up the solo shots all you want, because I don't care if that's the damage being done. Because when you can get out of situations like he was facing there, Schwarber comes up in that Sunday game, and you're like, oh, God, the booted ball at second base, and then Moniak drops it, and here comes Kyle Schwarber at Coors Field, and you're like, oh boy, here we've seen this story. We know how this story ends. it was a loud out, but it was an out. And I think that these are just professional pitchers. I think the Rockies have finally a rotation of professional starters. Again, it's not always going to be the prettiest stuff, but it's going to matter. I mean, I will take the Rockies being 17th in any pitcher category, because that means they're almost at the middle of the road when it comes to, or just in the middle of baseball. And if they can just be middle of the road as a pitching staff, that's a huge win for the Colorado Rockies. And
the improvement between being dead last and being kind of okay is a big one.
And that's the whole story of this season, right? If the Rockies win 55 games, that's +6 wins, or that's more than +6 wins. I honestly, I blocked out last year's win total from my actual. I couldn't tell you if it's 49 wins or 42 wins. I don't even remember what it actually was for the Rockies last year. But
43.
43. There you go. So this is a moment. That's huge. Going from awful, historically bad to close to league average. That would be a huge step in the right direction for the Colorado Rockies. And I want to give a tip of the cap to Senza as well. We talked about the changes. Talk about a guy that did not want to go to the bullpen, a guy that he was facing a moment in his career where he needed to change things. And it seems like he has gone full steam ahead into this. He's working with the coaching staff. He's embracing coming out of the bullpen. So tip of the cap to him for being someone that's going to be that was open-minded and has really locked into what the Rockies have done. It's a long season. I know we're hyping up a lot of Rockies pitching, and as soon as we jinx them in this Houston series, I know we'll hear about it. But I just think that we have seen it. The main takeaway from the first 10 games of the season, 9 games of the season, is the Rockies pitching staff is in a much better place this year than last year. And I'm not afraid to use the word much better, because it doesn't take much to be in a different spot. But I really like that these acquisitions, like you guys said, these are proven guys. These guys are veteran arms here, have success, a range of success, but have been in big moments and have embraced. I really like hearing pitchers say, I want to be here and pitch here. And I know Lorenzen kind of took that one off the chin, with it being his first Coors Field debut for the Rockies there. And I know his other 2 starts at Coors Field haven't gone great either. But it's just been refreshing. I think that it does feel different watching Rockies pitching this year. And it was great to see Vodnik. It's great to see the Rockies get strikeouts too from their pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to know a wild stat?
Yes.
So let's talk about Antonio Senzatela just a little bit more. Very small sample size, 2 appearances, 4 2/3 innings. But he has 6 strikeouts to 1 walk over that time. That puts him, at, small sample size, a strikeouts per 9 of 11.6. And if he can sustain anything near that for the season, that's a tremendous success. Because do you know what his career high strikeouts per 9 is?
It's got to be less than 5.
It is 6.9 in 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So he's close to doubling his strikeouts per 9. And, some guys haven't had the best starts in terms of their strikeout stuff. Zach Agnos is still working on some things. Juan Mejia doesn't have that many strikeouts yet. But right now, it's nice to go, there's nobody I'm really worried about if you bring them out of the bullpen. And we saw that today, where Sugano goes 6 innings, looks fabulous. Bullpen comes out, and Victor Vodnik, things got a little shaky, but he dialed it in and got 2 strikeouts to finish out the game. Brennan Bernardino with 2 strikeouts in his inning of work, and Jaden Hill with a scoreless inning. I like watching Rockies pitching right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think it goes, when we talked in that first segment about hitting, where we want to see the progress, and it's a little tougher. Brett Pill, I think, has a much tougher job than, honestly, what Alon Leishman and Matt Daniels, because Alon has a multitude of guys that are all collaborating, catchers, the pitchers, everybody collaborating, this effort of how to figure out pitching and making these adjustments to where it's a very collaborative effort. It's team effort there in the pitching side. there's the approach to how they're working with the pitching, and we're seeing a tangible results immediately for a lot of guys that we've mentioned. How can you take that approach and hand it over to the hitting as well? But Alon Leishman, Matt Daniels, Gabe Rebus, Matt Bushman, the new pitching core that has come in to work with this crew, you got to tip your cap to them, and they're bringing in the new ideas, the pitch calling from the dugout. That the old heads around the league are, what are we doing? But the players seem to be like, yeah, I like it. It's fine. It works.
Mixed with ABS too, thank goodness. I mean, I think the Rockies now. I mean, they were a little too. I'm glad Hunter Goodman is letting it rip now, because the Rockies were a little too cautious with that. But I think that's an added thing too. When it's a benefit to have a guy like Sagano that can hit those specific spots. And then if it isn't, boom! Like we saw on Sunday, I think there were 2 strikeouts, or at least one I know got flipped from a walk to a strikeout, which is massive. That's a huge little added thing too, which is a great sign for the Rockies. As I hope that they continue to be a little bit more aggressive with the new rules there.
Yeah. So we got the rotation. Let's touch on the bullpen real quick. Not a whole lot to talk about. They're just locking it down. They're doing their thing, pounding the zone. But I think, Paul, you had alluded to it before. I think the big thing is with the long relievers coming out on that opening day, or home opener. Valente Beoza, who had just gotten called up because of Quintana going on the IL. And Lorenzen gets through 2 innings. And you're like, oh, here we go. And Beoza just puts on the Superman cape and delivers just a phenomenal performance. A franchise performance of those 6 innings of relief to just close out the game, and how huge that is to just have a guy that can come in and just lock it down. And one, it saves a ton of the arms, and a good boost for the team, because, hey, picking up Lorenzen, okay, I'm just going to shut it down the rest of the way. That's huge. But I want to focus a little bit here on Dollander, because I think he's the most intriguing one that we're seeing what he can do, because he's starting the season in the bullpen just to continue to work on things and develop on-the-job training. And a little bit shaky in his first outing in Toronto, but the other day against the Phillies looked really good, looked like the guy who was a 9th overall pick and evolving into who the Rockies hope he can be with his performance out of that bullpen.
I wasn't super worried about Dollander in terms of when he was playing the Blue Jays, because honestly, the whole reason why Dollander is in the bullpen to start this season, they have said, is we don't want him in AAA. We want him facing big league pitching. And for him to come in, and you could tell they were messing with sequencing and doing some other stuff, that game was over, basically. Yeah. And Chase Dollander can come in and kind of mess with stuff. So it really, I think, skews his numbers, especially because it was his first appearance of the season. But when he came in as the bulk reliever on Saturday, pardon me, he was pretty good. He looked good. And, he was hitting his spots. He was getting strikeouts. He gave up some contact. He wasn't perfect, but nobody's asking for perfection. I think it'd be foolish to be asking for perfection, but 4 1/3 innings, 1 earned run on 4 hits and a walk, 6 strikeouts. Awesome. Love it.
Yep.
And he also did a pretty good job at keeping the ball on the ground. He had 8 ground outs. And that was something that we were praising Sugano for in today's game of, they had a couple deep shots, but they weren't really letting it rip into the air. And, for any pitcher at Coors Field, that's going to be important. And for Dollander, it's going to be a big thing, because he has now gone through the minor league development. He's gone through some changes in college. And right now it's, all right, kid, you're still developing, but we want you to develop against the best hitters in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the challenge. I like challenging him. I mean, the Rockies can't shy away from that either. Your division has some of the best teams in baseball. It's got some of the best players in the game just in your division alone. And the Rockies schedule this year, there is no break. The Rockies play playoff caliber teams basically the entirety of the first half of the season with a couple of exceptions here and there. And then you have the NL West the whole time. I like that Chase Dollander comes out and say, wherever the Rockies are going to put me, I'm coming out to attack and be aggressive. That's the mentality to have. I initially kind of scoffed at the idea of Dollander being in the bullpen at the start because I was like, oh boy, here we go, development issues and all that stuff. But when I thought about it, when I started kind of thinking about it more, I like challenging him here. I like that they left him in that Blue Jays game despite the home runs to go get through this, finish the job. And I think that's what's going to build his confidence back up. Him coming out of the bullpen and being successful out of the bullpen is going to be a big reason of why Chase Dollander believes he can not only be a major league pitcher, but a major league pitcher in Colorado. So I think that's going to be the thing because down the line, as we've already seen, not even 10 games into the season, spots are going to open up in this rotation from time to time throughout this season, whether it be through roster decisions or just injuries. That's just the nature of the game. So Chase is going to have a million opportunities here, and I think that one on Saturday was a prime example. Sure, it's a bummer he gives the go ahead a run up in that one, but again, I'm not pinning a 1-run performance on a pitcher when an offense is ice cold at home. And striking out 14 times or whatever they did. I think it was like 13 or 12 in that second game there. So I'm actually encouraged by Chase Dollander out of the bullpen, and I think this is going to be something that's going to help him continue to grow in his confidence. And I like the challenge of you throwing to AAA guys isn't helping you. Doesn't matter if you're starting in AAA or whatever. You need to be going up against the best in the business. You need to be going up against Bryce Harper and Brandon Marsh and Kyle Schwarber. You need to be facing these guys because that's what the expectation is that you face these guys and you're successful against them. So I think while it's there's still I think with all of this stuff with pitching, it's got to be consistency, right? We need to see this early success be maintained for the Rockies throughout a whole 162. But I think that they're showing at least the first steps of doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just a guy like Lorenzen has that bad game. It's don't let it continue to get out of hand, and the guys need to like put the stopper in. Okay, Lorenzen was bad, but the rest of us are really good. That is huge because, like I mentioned, it just helps the morale and it just helps save arms. So,
yeah, gave him options for games too. The second game of the Phillies game was a scheduled bullpen day already, and you had to have a couple of options on Sunday by having Valente go do what he did on Friday in that blowout. Stabilized the Rockies bullpen for the rest of the series, which was huge.
Yeah.
But I even think Lorenzen deserves some praise because, that first inning, real bad. But you know what? They could have pulled him right then and there and said, all right, it's a Johnny Holstaff game today. We just don't have it. And instead, Lorenzen goes 3. He only gives up the 2 other runs, it's rough. Like he wasn't perfect, but he was much better in those other 2 innings. And he at least goes 3, which set the table for Beozo to go out there and finish the game out and not have the Rockies eat away their entire bullpen. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this year in terms of, all right, man, you got to eat it. We need to keep things stable. And it was the same with Dollander. Towards the end of Dollander's first appearance in Toronto, when you could kind of tell, especially towards the end, he was getting gassed. It's the longest he had been out there. Most pitches he'd thrown in a while. He didn't quite have it. But the Rockies still said, no, we don't want to burn a bullpen guy on this. Finish your job.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a difference between the way that this staff does it and the way that we often saw Bud Black do it in terms of now you've got to eat it. It's not necessarily, throwing a guy out to the wolves like you've seen so many times before, but it's also not necessarily, you got to eat it because it's a shame thing. It's you got to eat it because it's your job, and we want you to go out there and keep doing your best. Yeah, things have gone bad, but we need you to go out there and still do your best for another couple innings.
Yeah, because we saw that on Saturday where Brennan Bernardino, they're hoping get through the first, maybe into the second, but get through the first, and then Dolander starts a clean inning. No, we have to use Jimmy Herget, but then Jimmy Herget is able to go get the out to finish the first, throws the second inning, and then Dolander can go in and work.
How good has Jimmy Herget been so far this season?
Awesome. Thank goodness he's in the pen still too. I think he's been just a wonderful, because all these guys, a lot of the guys that we talk about are young guys, but just like we talked about having that veteran presence for the starters, having that veteran guy in the bullpen, just like with Senza, I think coming out there. I mean, obviously the performance, but man, Jimmy Herget, even going back to last year, I mean, when you're looking for silver linings, you can go back to 2025 and look at Jimmy Herget, and you will find success there because he was great there, and I high praise. I do wonder if teams are going to be asking about him when it comes to trade deadline time, because he has been awesome. And when you're talking about guys you feel confident on the rubber, he is one of those guys that I feel great when he's in there, because Coors Field on the road, he's been successful in his time in purple.
Yeah. Pitching. Fun stuff. Who would have thought we'd be talking about how good pitching is at this point in the season?
Let's hope that it continues after 10, because I don't want to look back at this and be like, oh, that was a fun first 2 weeks, because there's a lot of baseball left. But I think what we've seen, the red flags of the offense, I think we've seen some green flags from the pitching staff that should make you feel at least a little bit more encouraged going forward there.
Whole job is to make them winnable games, and then the offense does the rest. Pitching's done their part. But yeah, fun stuff. Well, this episode's going to run a little longer, but that's okay. There's 3 of us. We're a lot more talkative this time around. So we'll take another break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the minors and just prospects to keep an eye on here on Affected by Altitude. Back here on Affected by Altitude, Skyler and Evan, along with Paul Holden. Paul, quick, you can give your little plug here.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Locked on Rockies, daily Rockies talk. Locked on Rockies on YouTube. Best place to go support the show. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Evan and Skyler have popped on a few times, and certainly will throughout the season there. So come hang out with us here as in between your Affected by Altitude episodes. You can get your Locked on Rockies episodes there. But we're reading from Purple Row all the time, though. Don't worry about that. We love our rock piles. They help keep us informed over on the pod.
The fun part is when you can see your thumbnail on the YouTube video, and what you're talking about. I'm like, it sounds like something I wrote. And then Paul starts reading it. I'm like, hey, that sounds familiar.
Before I'm like, what are they cooking up? What can I steal from them here today?
We always appreciate it. Good, it's good in the ecosystem type of stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's good that we got people talking. There's a lot of great. It's important, folks. It's some people, their teams that don't get as much focus. Bad teams don't get as much love and care that the Rockies do from a bunch of great media members out there. So we're despite the team being a mess, there's a lot of great folks doing great stuff covering the Rockies.
Also, I had to ask Paul, because Paul is big into Mario baseball. How's the Mario baseball scene going?
Yeah. It's good. We had a big we had a big tournament a couple of weeks ago. It was great. We got our other big one coming up here in July. So it's gonna be a whole blast. So yeah, I released a documentary at the end of last year. So there's all sorts of cool stuff in the world of competitive Mario baseball. If you need a break from real baseball, come see some fireballs and eggs and all sorts of fun stuff.
There's also
I just saw the Mario movie too this week. I gave it a thumbs up. If you're looking for my review, it gets a thumbs up for me. Not surprised critics don't like a video game movie.
It's a fun, stupid movie with little to no plot, but hey.
Yeah, exactly. And with a bunch of characters that I knew and a lot of things I could snap and point at, I'd be like, oh, I know that. And for me, that's all. That was cool.
Evan's just looking at us like, you nerds.
He's got a PS5 and a CRT behind him. That guy's doing some real deal gaming behind him. I know that.
But I don't have a copy of Mario Baseball.
Well, we can help you with that.
This is my plea to Nintendo to make a new Mario Baseball, please.
Yeah,
or put it on Switch Online.
It will come, but I got a better way to play online, because the Switch Online is going to be a nightmare. Now we're diving too deep. Now we're talking about
just
really in the weeds of my baseball.
I'm very disillusioned with MLB The Show, and I know that there's no other good baseball games coming. EA has effectively killed off Super Mega Baseball, and we're not getting anything else.
Hey,
So why?
Konami put their East Pro Spirits, they put it out on Steam right now.
Generic and mostly online only.
Woo! Video games in 2026.
Like, I could, if I really wanted to, pay a couple extra bucks and import a copy of Pro Baseball Spirits. I don't speak Japanese.
That's why they're testing it. You can get it on your PS5 right now.
And I downloaded it. I did. So that they will maybe give us an actual game. But I need Nintendo to really either re-release one of the Mario baseball games or make a new one.
I'm with you. Preach.
It's true.
And while we're at it, can someone make a new college baseball game?
Oh, that'd be fun.
I've been thinking about.
You get to play college. You get to play in the College World Series in the show, which is cool.
No, I'm talking PS2 MVP 06 and 07, which were at legitimately very good college baseball games.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, fun stuff. I want a new Base Wars game from the NES. That would be
Sure.
That would be sick. I would love that.
Competition breeds innovation, and that's the problem with MLB The Show, is that they have no competition, so they have no need to innovate. It's a game that has remained basically functionally the same since what? The Show 21? It hasn't really improved graphically. It really hasn't changed much gameplay-wise. They've added a handful of things. They've removed a handful of things. It's, give me something. Give me something here, guys. Days used to be where you could get hit. You couldn't walk down the street without getting hit in the face by a branded baseball game. You had All-Star Baseball. You had MVP/Triple Play. You had the 2K games. You had a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah,
and now
Nicktoons MLB All-Stars.
Yeah. What was it? The Bigs. Those were fun. And now you've got nothing. And for a while, we had Super Mega Baseball, which was a lot of fun and highly customizable. And then EA bought it, and then EA killed it. I have very strong feelings about this.
I love it. I mean, we were going to talk minor leaguers, but now we got the video game takes instead. That's what we like to see.
Speaking of minor league baseball, the fact that MLB The Show, a series that's been around for 20 years, does not have full minor leagues built into it. You've got half-assed AAA and AA rosters, and then a generic all-encompassing single A
where they don't play games.
And you are this is the only professional baseball video game of commercially available in the United States. And you can't even give us full minor league control.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what had more minor league baseball in it than the show? Was MVP 2005, a game that is 22 years old at this point.
That game's still holding up the test of time. That one's still referred to as the GOAT.
There's a reason it's in my GameCube right now. But the problem is you can't really get modern rosters on it because it makes things break.
I believe that. They're like, who are these people?
It's more of like you try and retool it, but the game has it so you can only like remove and recreate players so many times, and eventually just something in it breaks with the minor league system.
Interesting. Speaking of minor leagues,
sorry, that went on for a while.
Hey, it's all good. It's how this show goes often. But yeah, we wanted to close these things out, talking about the minor leagues, and all four teams are now, all four levels are in play. You can go find their rosters out and about. A lot of talent across the league, guys getting their action, AAA, AA. So we got Albuquerque, Hartford, Spokane, and then Fresno. Up and down, you can find, if you have an MLB TV subscription, watch those games for free as part of that, which is still phenomenal that they've done that. Or you can just go through the MILB app, the minor league app, to do that as well. But just wanted to go through and just, who are guys that you are excited to watch, go through the levels here, and just who you're keeping an eye on, who you're excited to watch throughout the year. But Yeah, let's start off with AAA. So those are the guys that are knocking on the door. You who are you excited about? Who are you interested in keeping an eye on? I probably think of the main guy.
Yeah, I mean the main thing I think for me it will continue to always be what does Charlie Condon do and where does he end up and everything. Did he end up breaking with? Is he officially on is he on the Isotopes officially, or is he still with the Goats?
He's with the Isotopes. He's already played some games.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, and I mean, I just think that he is. I think just mostly not only the name, but the fact that he had the strong fall and then he had the strong spring. You know, I really just want to see that end up being where we can see this guy be ready to come make an impact at the major league level in the second half of the season and make things interesting for the Rockies when it comes to how they handle their uh first base DH combo there. Obviously, keeping an eye on Seth Halverson as well, someone that the Rockies are hoping that are going to be playing a factor in the high leverage important moments for the Rockies. Braxton Fulford will be interesting to watch, especially with how the Rockies handle with catching going forward. And of course, Ariel Amador, I think, is another name of one of those guys that has a little bit of buzz around him. And of course, I think really the final one is hopefully when he gets healthy. Be great to see Zach Veen return from that injury and just start his minor league season off with a blaze and put some pressure on Jordan Beck specifically. I think would be the quickest one of putting a little heat behind the heels there to go there. So there's certainly a few guys intrigued at the AAA level there, but how can you not want to be watching Charlie Condon? But was it? I saw Cole Carrick picked up a straight steal of home this weekend as well. So, man, I've been loving the rock. We didn't dive into it, a topic to go into in other days, but the base stealing has been awesome. So, kind of the usual suspects, I think, for me right now on who I'm watching, but. I think we're gonna be at a point here where the second half of the season is going to come, and there is going to be a group of these guys that are in AAA that are going to be looked at to be impact guys for the Rockies in the second half of the season here.
Would you have anybody AAA catching your eye?
I mean, outside of Charlie Condon, Cole Carrick, you know, I think the biggest names to be watching this year are going to be Gabriel Hughes, Sean Sullivan, and Wellington Herrera. This is the year for these guys to eventually make their big league debut. They're basically the top three in terms of well-known Rockies pitching prospects right now. Sullivan and Hughes for the rotation, and Wellington Herrera for the bullpen. And it's been a long time coming for guys like Hughes, but then you had the surging, the really good minor league careers of Herrera and Sullivan. And the Rockies always need more pitching, and the Rockies also need a success story in terms of developing pitching talent, something they haven't really had recently. Talked about it a little bit, but I think this is going to be a make or break year for Ariel Amador. In my opinion, he's already a bust. He wasn't able to break camp with the job. He's not off to a particularly good start in AAA. I don't know how much more rope you can keep giving him. And he's still very young, it's true. But we've got other infield prospects who are going to be climbing the ladder pretty quickly. It's tough. And the other guy that I need to see, start to really cement himself is the new look Zach Veen.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, the thing, you put it on the weight's great, but we got to see it bounce back and we got to see it on the field here too. I know this, I think in kind of that same vein of guys that still have a little bit of name power, where the heck I know he's not on the Topes here, but where is Benny Montgomery? Like, what has even happened to Benny Montgomery here going forward? I think if you are a lot of guys that are in the weird gray area, and Amador is a perfect example, you better be doing something to make it so your spot is safe in this organization, because as the Rockies continue to evaluate and make the changes on the roster that we saw the guys they moved on from in this offseason, Now, if they have the whole, and now once they're going to have the full season under their belt of either minor or major league experience, the Rockies are going to have a lot of decisions to make on who can get packaged into trade deals, who they're not going to continue, extend another contract to. There's a lot of guys that I think really need to make a name for themselves for the Rockies, and Amador and Veen and Montgomery, I think would be on that list.
Yeah.
Just talking about Betty Montgomery, because as Purple Rose main minor league guy, as it were, I followed Betty Montgomery very closely, and I like Betty Montgomery a great deal. Seems like a good guy, and I know he's worked very hard. He is going to be a minor league free agent coming up soon, and in my opinion, he will be let go. And I don't know if he will be able to catch on elsewhere. He is still fairly young, but his career has been absolutely plagued with injuries, so many surgeries, so many season enders. The biggest thing that I think is the most important to look at with Betty Montgomery this year is he is on Hartford again. And the fact that he's been unable to crack the Yard Goats into AAA with all the injuries that he's had, and also just, I'm sorry, poor performance. Benny was bad last year. He was not particularly good in the outfield, and he was not good at the plate. And he finished the year hitting 201. 201, 274, 263. He had 4 home runs, but the biggest thing is his speed, which is part of one of the reasons why the Rockies got him, is his speed and athleticism is gone.
Oof.
It's tough because he grew and he got bigger, but he's 6'5", and he's already a big guy, and the injuries have just really hampered his ability to play the athletic way that was the reason the Rockies drafted him. And it really stinks, but this is now his 3rd go round in Hartford, and it's been diminishing returns. And I don't know. I would love for him to prove me wrong. He's only 23, and maybe this year is finally the year where he can put it all together and stay healthy. I want nothing more than that. That would be incredible. But I'm not sold. And I hate saying it because I love Benny.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball's tough, man. I mean, you might have the tools, you might get drafted in a certain spot, but that doesn't mean it's going to pan out. It's a game that'll chew you up and spit you out.
But that
I mean, look at poor Ryan Rawlson, of what injuries did to him. It's the same kind of thing where at the end of the day, and Rawlson is much older, obviously, but he was lucky just to finally make his debut.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of Montgomery and down the Yard Goats, that's a good transition here quickly. Who else on the Yard Goats kind of catches your eye looking at their roster and whatnot? I think for me, a big one still is like Griffin Herring, seeing what he can do now, moving up another rung on the ladder up into AAA. Was brought over in that Ryan McMahon deal, kind of seems to be the focal point of that trade. And Rockies seem to have some good aspirations for him helping out with the pitching here in the near future.
Yeah, Rock Riggio will be interesting. I think too. Braylon Wimmer can be one of the interesting ones, but because it's really tough. I think if you are a Rockies prospect, if you're an outfielder, you really want to be the ones that are going to make a statement. But I'm not really seeing. I don't know who's necessarily going to be knocking down the door here for the Rockies from the Yard Goats outfielders. When you're talking about Capel, Kokoschka, and Montgomery, there, I don't necessarily if any of those guys are gonna leapfrog anybody at the AAA level to get there. But I think Rock Riggio is probably at the top of my list here. Quick scrolling, trying to see if there's anyone else that. No, not necessarily jumping off the page, but it would be nice to see a certain holiday in Hartford Yard Goats purple before the end of the year for sure.
Oh, there's no way Holiday ends the season in AA. They're being slow and methodical with his development. That's why he's starting in Fresno again this year. He's only 19, and he's got the talent, but with an entire new look player development staff and lots of other new resources, they're going to take their time with him. I know that they would like to avoid rushing him if at all possible. I think at the most aggressive, Holiday ends the year in Spokane. But in terms of double A guys, it is, Rock Riggio, you want to establish if he's got a future to be a second baseman for the Rockies, especially with that position kind of open. Braylon Wimmer, I really like as a dark horse. Of He's not a big flashy name, but he plays with a ton of passion, and he's a very talented player. But a lot of the names to look out for Hartford are going to be in pitching. You have Jake Brooks, who had a very good first start, acquired from Miami in exchange for Bradley Blaylock. You have the Fishman, Griffin Herring, who's been really great to look at. I also am a big fan of Sam Weatherly and Fidel Ulloa. It's just going to be really interesting to watch. The big thing is that they were very aggressive with a lot of assignments in terms of the Hartford roster, but at the same time, and I'm not trying to denigrate Hartford, their roster to start the season is probably the least exciting.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing on there that makes me go, whoa, that's crazy, or what, or I'm already going to watch it because I love the Yard Goats, but it's not going to be like added incentive to watch outside of the guys you already knew were going to be there.
Yeah. And like,
It's really, for me, it's the Fresno and Spokane rosters that are the most fun. Spokane especially.
yeah, that's a good transition here on the segue over into Spokane, who you look at, and there's a lot of the notable pitching names, I think, down there in Spokane. Friend of the show, Brody Brecht, down there. Friend of the show, Jackson Cox, down there. And then you've also got Eugenio Herrera, who's finally back from Tommy John, and we finally kind of get to see what he can do in the Rockies system, because he didn't really do much when he came over the first bit because of the injury.
Yeah, Spokane's pitching. Oh, mwah. That is the pitching staff I am the most excited to watch, especially that rotation where you've got Brecht and you've got Eugenio Herrera, who is fully healthy. You've got Jackson Cox, who was very good in low A Fresno last year, but they were very careful with him as he continued to recover from his Tommy John surgery. And this year, if they're finally letting him off the leash, oh man, that's a lot of fun. And then the other names I really like on there, Stu Fleslin III, who's been both in the bullpen and a starter. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's very solid. He's not like a guy that you're going to go, this guy's an ace of the future, but you go, there's a big league pitcher in this kid. And it's the same for Everett Catlett, who is another guy I really, really like in that rotation. The other name to look out for there is Jordy Vargas, who's finally healthy, former top prospect, kind of slid down the ranks. Just the last 2 seasons, he had Tommy John. He really hasn't been on the field that much. And probably one of the more aggressive placements in terms of draft picks is Antoine Jean, the draft pick from last year.
See, that's why I'm glad I come on shows like this, because I get to have you guys explain to me why that there's all these guys we need to be paying attention to at the lower levels of the Rockies, because there's a lot of things a lot of layers and elements to this thing. Because I mean, it matters the performance there from these guys, especially as I think the Rockies are really going to really go through their development process and their organization with a fine-tooth comb here.
Yeah, it's been we're kind of running short on time, so I'm going to try and finish this up here. But it's going to be another year where the bottom levels of the Rockies in terms of development are the most important. It's going to be Fresno and it's going to be Spokane that are really, really important to watch. And that doesn't mean that Hartford and Albuquerque aren't important, but you look at Fresno, and Fresno's got Ethan Holiday and Waldo Dalis and Rolly Brito. These are guys who really have shown their stuff. Brito especially was incredible last year in both the Arizona Fall League and in Fresno, and they're doing a repeat assignment for him just because I think he is so young. He really had only just turned 18 when last year started. Same for Wildo Dalis. You've also got JB Middleton in the pitching staff down in Fresno. But it's just going to be one of those things where the Rockies are kind of starting over in terms of player development, and there's going to be a lot of reevaluation in the overall what's the word I'm looking for? Composition of the farm system. So, keep an eye out on the minor leagues. It's always a good time to watch minor league baseball, but it's also just it's fun to watch, and it's going to be really important for the Rockies moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like we talked about before. It's full of intrigue this season. I think so. It'll be great to see, and hopefully we get to see progress on every level from the organization as well.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. Skyler and I have more of a natural progress of less panic call ups, and where the depth is completely run dry, so we have to call people up.
Right.
But golly, this has been a long episode here. Might as well start wrapping things up. We might have lost our dear friend Skyler. Skyler, do you want to try saying something?
Well, I'm here, but who knows if it'll record and upload. Remember that one time it happened?
Oh, God.
We'll give it a try, but just to go ahead and wrap things up, Paul, do you want to once again plug yourself and tell folks where everybody can find you at?
Absolutely. Locked on Rockies. We're talking Rocks Monday through Friday. Locked on Rockies on your favorite streaming services and YouTube. I'm on Twitter as well, but if you want to interact, the best place, come hang out with us in the Locked on Rockies YouTube comments section. We are, if you like these two guys, we not only have them on the show, but we love reading the work as well, because we really believe that everybody at Purple Row and a lot of the folks out there really help us get a deeper understanding of the Rockies. And especially you guys do a lot of stat grabbing for me, which makes my life a lot easier, which I appreciate. But yeah, Locked on Rockies, come hang out with us there in between your reading on Purple Row and listening here to Affected by Altitude.
All righty. Skyler.
Well, if they're hearing this, it's at Skyler Timmons or at Timmons13.bsky.social and right in the Wednesday Rock Piles over at Purple Row.
And if you couldn't hear that, it's let's see if I can remember now. It's at Timmons13 and at Skyler Timmons. And also he writes the Wednesday Rock Piles over on Purple Row. Look, I don't often have to memorize other people's social media handles, okay? Cut me some slack on that. I hit the @ button and it pulls up a list for me. You can find me at evanlang27 at .bsky.social. I would love to hear from you. You can also catch me doing some of the game coverages over on Purple Row and the other occasional news break. If you want to listen to more Affected by Altitude on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice. If it's got podcasts, it's got us on it. Remember that we are also on a lot of social media platforms, including YouTube, where you can catch the video version of the show. Our handles on those platforms is at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. Well, fellas, we've made it 9 games into the regular season. We'll keep things rocking and rolling. And then we'll catch everybody next time. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks everybody for listening to another magical edition of us babbling on Affected by Altitude. I think I will hit him with it just in case. So farewell.
Farewell.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.